Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight for this live stream update on Tropical Storm Sally and what the remnants of Sally will bring to North Carolina tomorrow and mainly tomorrow, maybe into the early morning hours of Friday, but predominantly tomorrow with heavy rains causing some flash flooding issues across North Carolina. And I just wanted to review some of the things that I've seen with the damage that's been produced and also just some other tidbits from the storm. And just to update you on what the storm is doing now, you can see here on visible infrared satellite imagery the what is remaining of Tropical Storm Sally after making landfall as a Category 2 hurricane near Gulf Shores, Alabama, right about here last night, or actually very early this morning, and continuing its slow journey up toward the northeast and eventually up toward North Carolina. And we can see that the infrared satellite doesn't tell us much here, but we can jump on and look at the radar, which is what the main concern is, showing what exactly is happening on the ground. You can see the center of circulation down here, right about in this area, where the majority of the precipitation is still happening and is still going to continue to fill in as it approaches a frontal boundary. There's a stationary boundary lifting right here that's going to have warm, unstable, moist air underneath here, and it's going to continue to lift this way. We're going to have a cold front coming in from the northwest, and that's a bad color that you can't see very well, but we're going to have a frontal boundary coming in from the northwest as well, and it's going to cause kind of a collision over North Carolina and produce a lot of heavy rain over the next 24 to 30 hours or so. So again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hi, David. Good evening to you as well. Elizabeth, Ashley, Amy, Carolyn, thank you all for tuning in. So I wanted to, talk about what the impacts were. I'm going to come back to the radar and stuff in just a few minutes as well, but I wanted to talk about the rainfall that was the main story with Sally, and that did occur down in the Alabama and the panhandle of Florida. This is the MRMS. This is satellite-derived radar precipitation data, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what kind of rainfall fell on the ground. Typically, the National Weather Service local offices will put out information statements that contain the highest rainfall totals from a tropical system, but the National Weather Service in Mobile, Alabama, has not done that yet. So I was going to share that with you all, but they have not done that, so we are left to just look on the map here. But you can see, here's the scale on the right side here. Anywhere you see this white is above 20 inches of derived rainfall that the satellite is seeing that fell there. This lavender color is 24 inches, so 2 feet of rain, and then above that is 28, and I don't see any 32 shading on here, but these are colors I have not seen since Florence in North Carolina. There's a lot of rainfall. When you're measuring rainfall in feet after a tropical cyclone, that is certainly an impactful event, and that certainly happened. Pensacola got slammed by the storm. Sally kind of took a jog to the right just before it made landfall and gave Pensacola quite a wallop. I can't look over certain values here because this is just a satellite derived estimate here, but you can clearly see, Pensacola nestled right in this area down in here, and then we have Baldwin County, Alabama, and then Mobile County, Mobile, Alabama being over here. So Pensacola and down in Gulf Shores, Alabama, really getting hit hard last night and into this morning with a lot of torrential rainfall causing a lot of flooding issues and power outages as well. And we can jump over to the power outages, and on the poweroutage.us map you can see Alabama and Florida highlighted in red. We can check out Alabama and see down here in Baldwin County, almost, what is that? So that is 96.98% of the county out. Customers without power. Mobile County, about half of the customers, and then several counties as you go up inland into southern Alabama, still without power as well. And we can jump back and look at Florida as well. Florida Panhandle getting hit hard. Pensacola kind of taking the brunt of the storm. And again, 92% of customers without power in Escambia County, Florida. I know I'm clicking quickly here, but I'm just clicking to see the percentage and then going back to the map to show you. But Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, Okaloosa County, Walton County, Florida, all having power outages, but really Escambia County here where Pensacola is getting hit hard with 92% of customers without power even a few hours after the storm has been out of the area. So very impactful situation for those areas. And just to look at a little bit of the damage that I had seen, so I'm on Twitter now showing you a couple of tweets I've seen. This is from Jennifer Lambers. Photos coming in from west end of Dauphin Island, Alabama. We can see a lot of scattered debris. Boats, toppled on top of each other. I believe that I was reading some context of this tweet. There were some building materials that were laid out, but you can clearly see it's all scattered about now. So they were already kind of scattered to begin with. You can see, the house was in the process of having siding replaced, so there were materials outside, but they are scattered about now. The boats on top of each other, laid to ruin. A lot of siding on the house. So this is where they were talking about. This isn't actual damage from the storm. They were having siding put on. So kind of a trick picture here. You can see the rest of the materials here, but you can definitely see the havoc left behind just in this small area of Dolphin Island, Alabama. Some flooding in Navarre Beach. So this is, you can barely make out where the roads are in this area as well. And this is in Florida, or I believe this is in Florida, Navarre Beach. But you can see earlier this morning during the peak of the storm surge, flooding. Really making it hard to see where the roads are, and, fire truck responding to some kind of incident there. But, overall, a high impact situation. And then something interesting happened in Mobile Bay, actually. So with the storm taking a jog to the east, it, hitting Pensacola harder, that made the left side of the storm, the left side of the eye wall, pushing water out of Mobile Bay. So David Zierden here, former Florida State climatologist, amazing drop in water levels at Mobile Bay as a western eye wall brings offshore winds. You get negative storm surge. So this is quite fascinating. I'll show you an example of what this looks like. But when you have the storm in this position, you have, things coming down. The wind is actually pushing down this way on the western side of the eye wall. So you have this rotation around the eye wall. You have it curling around this way, and you have the winds pushing out, and you have this cutout here at Mobile Bay, and you had winds pushing water out after the initial onset of the storm. And what that looks like is something like this. So this is a photo from James Spann, a renowned meteorologist in Alabama. Another look at the reverse storm surge over Mobile Bay. Strong north winds on the west side of Sally pushing water out of the bay. Photo taken at the mouth of the Dog River on the west side of Mobile Bay by Buddy Old Shoe. So, you can see the intertidal zone is completely exposed here. You have water being pushed out of the bay, and the hurricane actually, pushing all the water up into Pensacola and bringing water out of Mobile Bay. Kind of an interesting phenomenon you get with storms like this. On one side of the storm is getting, all the water is being pushed up, and on the other side the water is being drawn back just because of the water and the fetch across the water and the wind pulling the water out of the bay there. So sort of interesting as well. Another coincidence that was interesting with this storm was its coincidence with Hurricane Ivan, back on September 16, 2004. You probably remember that name, although you don't remember the details of the storm. Look how close, this is just a GIF image that's toggling back and forth from meteorologist Stu Ostro. This is Sally, and then it toggles back and forth between Ivan. So the background map does not change here, showing how close they were to the date. September 16th, 16 years ago. So a lot of, just a strange coincidence how close this storm came. Ivan was a major hurricane, Category 3 at landfall. Sally was a Category 2 hurricane with 105 mile per hour winds, but the coincidence is still interesting. Both of these storms were very damaging to Pensacola, Gulf Shores, Alabama, making landfall in that same area as well. Caleb asks, is that phenomenon common with the pulling out of storm surge? It actually is. It doesn't get as much press as, of course, the damage photos, but a lot of times when you have a situation like that, anytime you have the eye wall going back here on this side of the storm, so this just so happened that Mobile Bay is right here, and the eye wall came right over that area. So that is pushing water out this way. You have your circulation around the system. So that just so happened this way. And it worked against the situation in New Orleans. So here's New Orleans down here on this map. And then you had Hurricane Katrina, which we all know, came up through this area, and the circulation was this way. So that's what led to it being so bad. There was water pulled up from eastern Louisiana. It was all pushed into New Orleans from Lake Pontchartrain. So that is, it is a common scenario. It's kind of a game of, it's like real estate. It's all about where it happens, where you get those maximized impacts. But that is a pretty common occurrence. It occurred with Hurricane Florence a couple of years ago, pulling water out near Charleston or Myrtle Beach, one of the two areas there. There were photos of that, but an interesting phenomenon nonetheless. And again, just before I jump back into North Carolina's impacts, This is the fourth hurricane to make landfall this season. We had Hurricane Hannah in southern Texas. We had Hurricane Isaias in Cape Lookout, Cape Lookout, North Carolina. We had Hurricane Laura last month, devastating the southwestern part of Louisiana. And now we had Hurricane Sally early this morning, making landfall at Gulf Shores, Alabama, the first hurricane to make landfall in Alabama since Ivan back in 2004. So, and we are just halfway through the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. Keep that in mind. So again, jumping back to the impacts and what we're going to look at here in North Carolina, we still have the swath of rain that's coming from the storm, and anywhere from 4 to 6 inches is expected. And the current storm situated over eastern Alabama, western Georgia at this time, upstate South Carolina, and the Midlands expected to get anywhere from 4 to 10 inches in this orange shade, which this is a very coarse resolution graphic. You can't say that if you live in this spot on the map you're going to get 10 inches and 10 miles west of you. That's not going to happen. This is just what the model depicts is going to happen. So the National Weather Service painted a different picture with a graphic here showing just the storm total rainfall forecast from another model, and you can see this swath across North Carolina of 4 to 5.5 inches in Raleigh. The western slopes of the mountains getting kind of neglected here, which is certainly good. We don't need the rain. Asheville kind of being the lower border here of the significant rainfall. Hickory is kind of an I-85 special again, where you have anywhere from Roanoke Rapids down to Charlotte Metrolina area, causing that widespread swath of 4 to 6 inches of rain. And anytime this much rain is forecast, it can be overdone, yes, but it also can be underdone, and there can be pockets that have a lot higher rainfall rates, and that can be especially true down here in the southern part of the state, where we have the actual mesocyclone, the leftover of the remnants of Sally. That has a lot of forcing and a lot of energy still with it. That can cause a lot of localized downpours. That can drop a lot more pockets of heavy rain that may not be depicted. The model can't resolve that. The model forecast cannot, say, oh, there's going to be a heavy pocket of rain over Sampson County for a long period of time. It can't pick that up. So just be aware that the rainfall is likely to be spotty, but a lot of rainfall is headed the way nonetheless. And the tornado threat does have my attention and the Storm Prediction Center's attention as well, especially in this area down here, down in the southern coastal plain, where typically that is our little Carolina alley where we get these situations. But again, I will jump over here and I want to see if this run is done yet. Maybe not. So yeah, so we have through 15 hours here. And what we want to look at here is the progression of the rain. So jumping back over to the radar, this is where the rain's at now, kind of just now starting to creep into North Carolina, the southern part of the coastal plain in southern North Carolina, getting into some of these outer rain bands that aren't directly associated with Sally. They're kind of tangled up with a stationary front that's hung across the southern half of the state, but that's going to continue moving up, and then this rain is all going to fill in as it is coming up this way. All of this rain is going to fill in as it comes up into North Carolina, and then a cold front is going to be sagging southward here, or southeastward, I should say. Ignore the red color. It should be blue for cold front, but you get this situation here. The blue doesn't show up very well, so this is going to be a red cold front. And this cold front pushing down this way into the state is going to amplify a lot of rainfall right over the state. So again, you have that flash flooding concern, and that rain's going to fill in quickly. Tomorrow should be over by midday on Friday. So tomorrow's going to be a very wet day. Most of the rain should start overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow afternoon is when the most convective, the most stormy kind of rain, where you might have a rumble of thunder or two, would be expected tomorrow afternoon, or tomorrow PM, I should say. So jumping back over to here, the main points here. This is a chart from the National Weather Service in Raleigh. Heavy rain, 3 to 6 inches of rain with isolated higher amounts possible. All of central North Carolina, Thursday through Friday. Flash flooding, periods of moderate to heavy rain. Flash flooding again, key point. A few tornadoes are possible, especially central North Carolina, but especially from Triangle to the south and east. And then again, I will, post this as well so you can review it at your own leisure. But here we also have, never drive through flooded waters, turn around, don't drown. Most flood fatalities occur in vehicles when you are caught off guard and the vehicle is carried away to a point that's inaccessible from rescue. So 12 inches of water can sweep a car off the road. That is not very much. That's a foot of water that can completely immobilize your car, and just 6 inches of water can move a human off of their feet. So just be aware of that, especially in urban areas. If you are out and about tomorrow, try to minimize travel, but if you do have to be out and about, just do not drive through floodwaters. You do not know how deep, you do not know if the ground is solid underneath, you do not know how deep the water is. Cannot be emphasized enough. Of the 24 fatalities that occurred in Hurricane Florence, I believe 22 of them were water related. You cannot take these things for granted. You have to be serious and understand that you cannot drive through flooded waters or flooded roadways, particularly because you do not know how deep it is, and it can cause a lot of problems very quickly if you're in that situation. So again, jumping forward here, looks like we got a couple of more hours on the model run here. I'm trying to show you the depiction of how the rainfall comes to fruition across North Carolina, and it's being a little bit finicky, but again, you can see this is 12Z tomorrow, so this is 7 a.m. A lot of rain has overspread the area, particularly the western half of North Carolina, and then as we continue to go through the day, the tornado threat would be maximized at this time, so this is about 1 p.m. tomorrow, when some of the more cellular convection and the heavier rains moving into central and southern North Carolina, and then our time runs out here with the HRRR run, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. It has not yet finished loading. I hoped it would, but it looks like it's not going to do that for us. So again, just imagine that this continues to fill in this way, moving to the northeast, and then you have a lot of rainfall again left over in central North Carolina with the remnants of Sally. So again, that is really all I had. Just wanted to review the impacts, reviewed some of the impacts of Hurricane Sally, now Tropical Storm Sally, and now I will leave with the radar ongoing, and I'll turn on the counties here so you can see that as well, just for your reference. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to comment, or message me on Facebook, comment on this video. I'll post this video to YouTube as well to maximize viewership. I will also share information from the National Weather Service in Raleigh and Greenville-Spartanburg, which covers the western half of the viewing area for Metrolina. So again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. I'm going to wrap up the video here. Heavy rain expected tomorrow across North Carolina. A very wet day in store from the remnants of Sally. Wind should not really be an issue. There might be some localized power outages from the more intense cells. But again, you know, the main story is just being the rainfall here. All the water that falls here has to go somewhere, and it's all going to go down, you know, the Cape Fear, the Neuse, the Tar River basins. We'll have to see how the river basins handle that, and see, with already waterlogged areas, how much of an impact this rainfall does have. But again, just prepare for a very wet day tomorrow and stay safe, and I will catch you all on the next video whenever that may be. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye-bye.